Hey guys, this is Michelle Clark and I am a senior national makeup artist for MAC Cosmetics, and this is how I like to contour. Check out my 3 levels of how to get a supernatural to a kind of dramatic contour. So I started with just a little bit of moisturizer on today, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use Fix Plus to refresh and rehydrate my skin. This is just going to bring some moisture back in. Doesn't mean that I need to fully moisturize again, but it means that I can just refresh what was already there. And I'm going to start by using Face and Body as a primer. So this is a foundation, it's super lightweight, but I'm actually going to use it as a primer for what I'm actually going to use for contour. So I'm going in with a little mixture of N1 and C2, which is my color currently, and I'm doing it on my hand, and I'm going to mix it together, and then I'm going to rub it in with my fingertips, gently just coating the surface of my skin. Now that my skin is evened out with the Face and Body as a primer, I can actually go in and start to create my contoured shapes. So I'm actually going to be using 24-hour Smooth Wear Concealer. This is from the Studio Fix line. This is in NW35, and I chose this because it's a warmer shade for my skin tone. So I would recommend going up a couple shades from your natural skin tone. It's going to help create a pretty realistic looking contour, and it's going to make it easier for you to make it believable and make it look like it's not really there, which is the goal. So the first step is to actually take the really easy to use doe foot wand and to start by the tragus of the ear, which is this part of your ear right here. And I'm actually just going to draw a line right on the edge of my cheekbone, which I can feel with this doe foot as I'm going across towards the center of my face. And I'm ending it about 2 fingers away from my mouth. That's a good point for you. And another point of reference is the outside of your iris. That's kind of where that contour should stop. Then I'm going to use it a little bit on, let me grab a little more, on my temples, put a couple stripes here, and then right around my hairline. I have a forehead, so I have the space to actually contour where needed around the edge of my hairline. So if you're like me and you have a good amount of space here, then you can take this all the way up to the top and then right around the temples, and then we can actually even swipe a little on the jawline. Now I have a pretty defined jaw, so I don't need to necessarily contour there, but I will just so that you can see. And then I'm actually going to do a little bit on my chin because I have quite a prominent chin. The next step is to go in with a 130 brush to blend this out. Now I chose this brush because it's synthetic, it's short haired, there's not a lot of movement happening with the bristles, which is good because I can really boss it around. When it comes to contour, most people end up creating too large of a contour on their cheekbone, and it ends up looking kind of muddy, and it defeats the purpose of trying to make you look like you have a bit more shadow underneath your cheekbone, which creates the effect of giving you more definition and a more sculpted look. If you have a shorter forehead where you don't have as much space as me, you may not actually need to contour over here. You may not need to contour at all on your forehead. If you find that you have less space here but a little more in the middle, then I would recommend contouring just at the top at the hairline. That'll just take things down a bit. Remember that when you're contouring and you're adding a bit of depth to the skin, you're reshaping the angles of your face. So wherever you want to minimize something, that's where you're going to use your contour. Now we're going to go back in with Face and Body, and this is in the C2. And I'm actually going to use that same brush I was just contouring with. I'm just going to kind of rub it off onto my hand. And I'm going to go over the edges of where I just used that contour. And what this does is it just creates a softer seam where you had the contour and where your skin was prepped with the face and body to begin with. This also just helps to create a really natural, flawless finish to the skin. So if you're somebody who's not looking for a dramatic contour, this is the best way to start with something light, as in coverage and not too scary. The other thing is, if you end up putting on way too much, you can always use this like an eraser to temper back that color so that you're not feeling like you look not blended or it's too intense for you. That is level 1. Now let's move into level 2. And level 2 actually involves the next step, which is using our Studio Fix Shape and Sculpt palette to create a deeper contour. Now for me, I'm gonna go in with this shade here, which is taupe. And taupe to me is the perfect shade for someone that's light to medium skin. If you're a deeper complexion, you could go in with either shadowy or definitive from the deeper palette. And this is gonna do an amazing job at sculpting your skin. So in order to do this, I'm gonna switch up my brush. I'm gonna go in with, this is the 133 brush, and into my taupe right here. And now I'm just gonna start same place back at the tragus of the ear, and I'm gonna start brushing that forward, but also kind of hugging that cheekbone. You can see that I already got a dramatic amount of color there. So that's taking up a notch from what we just did with concealer, and then kicking it up a bit with the powder and locking in that color and that definition. Next, I'm going to take a little bit of that same tone in the taupe and go right through my crease. This is going to help blend out that same shape that we had here and connect what we did to the temple through the crease of the eye. Now we're going to add a little bit of highlight using 24-hour Studio Fix Smooth Wear Concealer, and this is an NC15. I'm going to go in and just add it to the inner corner of my eye, a drop or two outside the edge of my mouth, and then right through the center here, and then we're going to take it right down the edge of my nose. And then let's put a couple right on top of my forehead here. Using a 252 brush, I'm actually going to just blend this out. So this is going to bring light to the face, add volume. Anywhere where you have something lighter, it's going to bring forward. Anything where there's something deeper, you're actually pulling that back. If you'd like to contour your nose, it's actually going to help you minimize the width of it if that's what you're interested in, or making the tip of your nose look a little bit shorter. You could go in and do it in a natural way by using that same concealer, the first one that we did. And I'm going to take that on the inside of my brow. This is kind of the best place to start. And then go straight down the nose, the side. We do the same thing on the other side, like that. If you want to take a little bit off the length, you go right underneath here. And I feel that this is the easiest way to do this without it making it look stripy or overly contoured. Cream products are easier to blend away than powder, and sometimes powder can look patchy. So level 3 is next, and level 3 came to me at one point when I was asked to teach a class on waterproof makeup, and I needed to find a way to make a waterproof contour that would last splashing around and diving and swimming in a swimming pool, all while looking super glamorous and fabulous and not letting your contour leave you. So I came up with this idea, and here's my little hack and trick for level 3 of contour. So it involves a little fluid line in low lights and, again, my favorite, 24-hour smooth wear concealer. So you're using the same concealer that we started out with and then adding a dot of fluid line into it just to make it a little bit cooler and a little deeper. So I've scooped some out onto a palette right here, and I've got a little bit of the concealer and then a tiny, tiny dash of the fluid line. And now I'm about to mix them together. Here's my mix. It should be deeper than your skin tone with a touch of taupe to it. Okay, so I'm gonna start with that 252 brush again, and I'm gonna start it back by the tragus of the ear. And you can see that this is deeper than the other color that we started with on the other side. And it's also a little bit more taupe. So it's gonna create more of a shadowed effect. When you hold your hand over your skin in front of light and you see shadows on the skin, you actually see something with a gray cast. And that's what we're trying to create. We're trying to create depth that looks like my bone structure was actually, that I was born this way. But the secret is it wasn't. So here we go. Let's see how I blend this out. This time I'm using a 168 brush, and starting with the bottom of the brush here, and using the shape of it to flick forward and blend out the product. This brush is fantastic because it just hugs the cheekbone and it does all the work for you. It makes it so much easier to blend out what we've just created. And don't worry, I've got a step next that's going to make this not look too taupe, and it's gonna warm it up. But you can see I already got a lot of depth here. Let's add a little on top. Now we want to warm it all back out. So I'm going to use the same brush, the 168, and I'm going to use Give Me Sun Mineralized bronzer to give me a little bit of color that looks slightly more natural and a bit warmer. So there you have it. I've done both sides. This was with the concealer and then putting the SCULPT palette on top. And then this was the trick with a little bit of the fluid line and then using some Give Me Sun Mineralized on top to warm it up. I hope that you enjoyed seeing these 2 different techniques and 3 levels of contour.